Lots happening apparently with the champions of the PWHL and Team Minnesota. Joe, I know you and Russo have been on top of it. I know you threw out an article last week. I don't know if there's been any developments since then, but just break down for everyone like what happened here with the ousting of Natalie Darwitz and what have we gathered so far?
Yeah, clearly, shocking developments in what was a feel-good story, I think, for obviously Minnesota and the entire PWHL in their first year in existence to have a team like that win the championship, the first Walter Cup, um, have the celebration, all like the hometown kids being the stars of it, and then pretty much a little less than a week after they won the Walter Cup, Natalie Darwitz, the local hockey legend, Olympian, and two-time champ with the Gophers, the GM of this team, put it together, was informed by the league that she would not be coming back the next season. And to keep people perspective here, the league runs the teams. Like it's not like you have the Wild where Leopold's over Guerin, who's over this. Like the leagues are the one that make decisions at the higher levels of teams. So all these coaches and GMs were under 1 year contracts expiring on June 30th, and they basically informed her that she was not coming back, which was a shock to a lot of some players and a shock to obviously fans who saw that her lead a team to a championship, and all of a sudden she's gone. That led to some reporting by Mike Russo and I for the Athletic that posted on Friday regarding a rift between Ken Klee, who's the head coach of the team, and Darwitz, the GM, and that there were maybe some factions of players on each side. And that is part of what led to the league deciding that there needed to be a change there. So, what we can tell you is just some background is that um, Ken Klee interviewed for the GM position that Natalie got and interviewed for the head coaching position. Um, but going into last year, the thought was you could do both. He did not get those jobs. And then the league decided, with Natalie that once their previous head coach, Charlie Berghoff, decided a week before the season to leave for personal reasons, that Ken Klee was already vetted. He was already an accomplished coach. He wanted the team USA. It'd be easier to bring him in a week before the season. So on the surface level, before this all kind of happened, it seemed like a situation that'd be tough from a power struggle perspective of having the person who was kind of passed over for the GM and the coaching job come in and be working with or under Natalie. We didn't sense any. I mean, I'm not there every day, and neither is Mike, so it's hard to get a read if you're not. But they went through a season where they overcame the odds and won a championship after losing 7 straight games. Kendall Coyne came out on after celebration said this was such a fun team. There was no drama, which apparently that wasn't the case because so essentially the league had kind of like consulting firms go visit all 6 of their teams to see if they're run professionally, see what they can do better for next year and what they can learn going forward. And that they decided after that consulting group went in for the Minnesota angle, they found that it was untenable for the situation to remain the same with Natalie there. They told her she had a couple options that she could, say she's leaving, put out a statement, and be part of the work for the league in some other aspect. She could not, and she could be part of the draft, but not really be part of the draft. She could be at the draft, but not have any particular role. The draft was in Minnesota, obviously, on Monday before this taping. So if now you're going to have situations where there's probably lawyers on both sides, but it just, that's the brass tacks that there was clearly an issue, enough of an issue between Natalie and Ken or what they viewed from the consulting firm that it was untenable. But now you have the local legend who led the team to a championship all of a sudden out after year one. And that's the biggest storyline you have leading into the PWHL draft and awards in Minnesota, which is very, I mean, it has to be disappointing from a league perspective. And they could have done this better, in my opinion, of managing this and handling it because it just left everybody kind of flailing in the wind, right? And then this is the biggest storyline and topic point for this particular moment in the league. So we don't know the full story. Obviously, Ken Klee declined to comment, said he couldn't talk about it. Kendall Coyne hasn't responded to messages to us. We wanted to get both sides on that if there was indeed kind of a larger rift or a power play here done on that side. But for right now, clearly it's a disappointing and frustrating end for Team Minnesota, considering this should be their cup tour, this should be their celebration, this should be Minnesota sports finally won a championship, and here we are talking about alleged infighting and a power struggle and players on each side, and now some uncertainty where there's not a GM anymore yet, and they're on a search for that for the PWHL Minnesota, with Ken Klee returning as head coach. So a lot to unpack and uncover. There'll probably be more reporting as this goes forward, but considering our broadcast a couple weeks ago and how this was kind of a shining bright moment for the league to have this kind of happen, to have the league have a champion like this and a dramatic game 5, and seemed all the momentum in that perspective was kind of lost with this kind of story that's taken over the headlines.
Yeah, it feels like the most Minnesota way to win and celebrate a Minnesota championship. And it's a bummer. And like you said, haven't gotten comment from a lot of people. We're not going to have all the details, but I know everyone appreciates how quickly you guys were able to get on top of this and at least get some context out there, because when you just see the headline, no context, that Natalie Darwitz has been removed after winning the championship, leaves a lot of room for people to just start making assumptions and all making themselves look a little foolish.
And if she indeed there was a problem with her or something that went wrong, like, why would you still offer her a job at the league? You know, if there was an issue that was that, it makes it seem as though it was that power struggle where they couldn't have both of them there and they just picked the other person. You know, if you're a league and you're offering her another job within the league, from what our sources are telling us, then it wouldn't be like some major, you know, scandalous misconduct that was done by this person. So I think it was handled not very well, I think, from a lot of different sides. And I think it just shows kind of the youth and the green of people who are running the league, or whether they people up top or in PR and everything. This could have been handled better, in my opinion. And then maybe there'll be some more things revealed at the draft and maybe more some transparency with it. But for right now, it's kind of the story that people are following along instead of who will be the top selection in the draft.